Hello, this is Debbie with Light Up Your Worth, and I am so happy that you are here with me today and excited to share another one of my friends. And her name, of course, is Debbie again, Debbie Bodine. And I am so happy that she is here, that she's blessed me with her presence. We had met in a coaching program, and there was something unique and special, and I wanted to know more about what some of her magicalness was, and so I asked her to come join me. And so, Debbie, I'm so excited, right? The double D's now,
I
right?
know, right? It's it was always like with a grateful soul that I am here and that we have met, and we know like there's no coincidence, right? Like this has been divinely orchestrated for us to meet at this time because the universe and the world needs some more love and support and a little more light, to make us let our heart shine a little bit.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of when I thought of, how was I going to name this? What did I really want to go for? And it was really, when we start to shine our own light and step into who we are, it really does coincide with how we feel about ourselves, our own value, and then our own worth, and showing up. And so it's just so divinely guided that we get to be here today. And I'm excited. I'm excited.
I'm very excited and obviously I'm very honored, that you have asked me, to be a guest on your podcast. It's just such a privilege for me to be here and to share this experience with you. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm really, I was watching some of your Instagram stuff today, and it was just so like heartfelt, and your presence in really wanting to reach people and help them see their own greatness. And I know that you getting there just didn't happen. And so I would love for you to share what you feel comfortable sharing on how did Debbie become Debbie? What fire, dark side of the night, right? Did you walk through to be able to then, come into your own spiritual greatness where you're helping others? I would love to hear.
Oh, Debbie, thank you. And fire is very good because I'm a fire sign. So
Oh, I had no idea.
yeah, you got no idea, right? Oh God, she's talking fire. So it's like if I'm a fire sign. When I was little, like I had these gifts and I could see things, and I'm an only child, and my parents, they dismissed it, and my mom was very she didn't know how to love. She did not know, so there was
Hmm.
not that nurturing aspect from her. So a lot of my stuff I had to hide away. And it wasn't like when I was 17, there was like a little fair downtown, and there was a tarot card reader there, and I wanted to get my cards read, and it was like very taboo back. This is like in the 70s, right? And and I secretly like I wished that I had like psychic gifts or abilities. And she said like, you have a gift, like you need to develop that. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I was like, is she just telling me that because like she can feel me wanting to hear that? And she said, go buy a set of tarot cards. And I had to go to New Hope, Pennsylvania, because there was none in my little town. I had to drive all the way to Pennsylvania, but they had maps. There was like no GPS or anything. And I had to go to this little store, buy a set of cards. And I just started to learn to read the cards, and more stuff came out. And I would start to see things and hear things. And, but it was still like you couldn't talk about it. It was one of the things you just, nobody really understood it. There was not the community, so grateful for the online communities that support this.
Mm-hmm.
I got married, I had 2 kids, I got a divorce. And then I was in a video store. I was looking, because I used to work out. I danced as a child, and I wanted, once a month I would get a new workout tape. And I was there, and I see yoga tapes. And I'm going, no, I don't want yoga. Well, literally, like something kept calling me to the yoga tapes. And now I don't want a yoga tape. And they caught, and anyway, long story short, I walked out of the store with 3 yoga tapes, 2 power yogas in the beginning, and I literally was crying because I knew I had to buy them. Something from spirit was telling me to buy them, but the human side of me was resisting. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I get home, I do the power yoga. I did it. It was an hour class. I did it 3 times that day, and I cried. I just literally completely lost it. And so that opened up the block that was between my human side and my spirit side, because I had shut off my spirituality and my connection to source because I had no way to understand it. So that it was the beginning. And then I started, learning about different religions because I was brought up in that typical Christian Catholic home.
Mm-hmm.
And that just loved the foundation of it. But there were certain things that didn't resonate with me. So then that started to snowball into other things. And I started, reading more cards openly for people, and then doing my yoga practices, and then leading meditations, and, talking to people saying like, it's okay. Like, you can be exactly who you are. And if you need a safe space, then, call me or reach out to somebody who is safe. So, and then obviously you and I landed in this community years later. And so this has been a great outlet for really exploding into who we are.
Oh, I would completely agree. Like, being in a community is you need it. You need to find those safe people.
Yeah.
And as it expands and you meet more people, you really get like, wow, and I feel so much safer. I feel more empowered being in a community, and like yourself, I'm so grateful that you listened to yourself and bought those, bought the yoga, right? And then you did it.
First tarot deck and the yoga. And, I've obviously, I got my certification, and I've been, and I love it. And I probably get more out of it myself than my students do, or it's an equal exchange, because I don't plan my classes. I walk into the room and I go intuitively as to what the vibe in the room is. Okay, we're either going to flow today, we're going to rest, we're going to do restorative, we're going to whatever it is. That's what I go with. But I'm a catalyst. I mean, source, just downloads through me, and source tells me what to do. Just like tonight, I little pre-talk, right? Archangel Metatron told me to wear this necklace tonight. Okay. Told me to wear a white shirt. I mean, it's like they tell you what to do if you just kind of tune in, right? That's what the meditation comes in. You quiet and you just breathe. You just listen to the sound of your breath, and that's all you need to do for a couple of minutes. And that really opens up those channels.
You know what's so beautiful about that, Debbie, that I want to explore is that you go back to the moment in the store and you listen to your own intuition.
I did. And that is something I had pushed aside because I didn't know what it was. Nobody explained it to me. And I could not move. It was like there was a box that I had been put in. It's like, you're leaving here with 3 tapes, and these are the tapes you're going to take. And I was so overwhelmed. I mean, I was literally I thought I was having a nervous breakdown, and I was talking to myself out loud. So,
Well, probably thought you were having what's going on with that gal over there in the yoga section.
One of these moments, right? And the guy at the store came around the corner. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, No, they're telling me to buy yoga DVDs. Well, yeah, they're not even DVDs, like the VCR tapes. This is like how they're going.
I remember those.
And I got them. And it took a little while for me to go, oh, okay. Someone's talking to me. Because I hadn't talked to God for a while because I no longer related to organized Christianity. And so I'm like, okay, so who's talking to me? And then I found out later that it was my dad's mother who had passed away, who was the one sitting there going like, you're going to buy these. And it happened. And yoga for me like I said, that was broke all the barriers between my human self and my spirit self. But that
Mhm.
was like a long lost love. If you ever meet somebody and you just like, where have you been like my whole life? Like yoga is like in essence, that is part of my soul. And
Oh,
it's just like, it's like a love affair with this practice. So, and
oh, this morning I woke up and I don't regularly practice yoga. I do it and I get really good and I'll do it for years and then I fall off the wagon
yeah,
and then I start to do some of my very basic poses. Last year, because I love hot yoga,
yeah, yeah,
hot yoga and yin, or yeah, yin yoga with
yeah,
the
restorative,
long
yeah, yeah,
restorative, right? The
with the
long
long holds, yep.
stretches to really break up the tightness, because I
Hmm.
sit so
Yeah,
much. And I woke up this morning going, I need a really good stretch. Like, I need a really good connection back and listen to what my body is saying right now. And
yeah,
isn't it so interesting that I'm talking to
that
somebody who that's how your connection came through? I know there's no coincidences that this would be that day that I was
exactly
like,
right.
okay, like you really need to take the time tonight before you go. And there's like 4 stretches that I just keep seeing myself doing all day. And I'm like, okay, you
And
are going
yeah,
to do those tonight. And you're going to release whatever it is you're holding in your hips. My hip flexors are super, super tight, right? I was walking a lot on cement.
yeah,
And
and so that's very
mhm,
also on the low back as well, right? That puts so much pressure on the low back, you know. So if you do it like a bridge, bridge, you lay on your back and you place your feet on the floor and you lift your hips up.
mhm.
If you have, I don't know if you have a yoga block or not, but if you don't, that's fine. You get some pillows and put them underneath of your hips so your hips are a little more elevated, and that will start to open up your hip flexors in a nice, gentle way.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that. You,
yeah,
you know what I have found that's so beautiful is that the connection between our bodies on where we store our stuff with our spiritual, our past traumas, our um, stuff that we need to work through, and how
yeah,
it all comes through in our physical body. And
yeah.
I'm curious to hear, your thoughts on that. Like, have you noticed that for yourself and with all of
Oh
the
yeah.
people that you worked with?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Our bodies, our muscles hold everything that happens to us because, we go through something emotionally. And if we don't look at it and work with it and deal with it, most of the time we don't know how to, right? Because it's very raw. So we push it down, it gets stuck in our muscles, right? And then we just pile one thing on top of the next, on top of the next. And then we either start having like high blood pressure problems or cholesterol problems or some other health issues. And then our muscles start to get tight. We start to get fatigued. And it's really 5 minutes of stretching releases all that emotion that's stuck in your, because emotion gets stuck in your muscles
Hmm.
as well. So if you start to just stretch out a little bit and breathe with the long, slow breathing, right? Because yoga is the breath incorporated. So every movement, there is a corresponding breath. So generally, you inhale as you're rising and you exhale as you're going down. And when you incorporate and put the breath in line with the movement, it automatically starts to open up those inner fibers of the muscles that's holding on to all that emotional stress that gets stuck because it leaves our head, right? Because our head always wants something else. It always wants a new problem to deal with, right? It's
Yeah.
going, okay, new problem. Let me just try to make a new problem. That's a whole nother story. And it cools down and just where's it going to go? We haven't dealt with it. So then it gets buried into our muscles and it gets buried into our muscles and it gets buried in until our bodies start to break down or relash out at somebody. And we also carry that from one life to the next as well. Our soul also carries all that stuff if we don't deal with it. And if we don't heal like the soul experience as well, the soul will carry that from one life to the next as well.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, d- does yoga, when you're practicing yoga, does it reach your like emotional body, your astral body, our different causal, does how does that work with yoga? Like, I am fascinated, because I've been
Great
on my
thing,
journey
right?
for a while, right? Like I remember having to, you know, um, go find someplace. It wasn't so common as it is now, or easily accessed. There was no such thing as the internet. In fact, I still have a
Right.
TV in my house that has a VCR in it because I
Yeah, so
don't have
you
old
know,
movies
this
that I want
story where
to watch.
I still have my old VCR tapes. Like, I will not part with them. I still
Yeah.
have them, although I can get them online now, but I still have them. So
Mhm.
what happens, like, when you start to move your body and you do it in alignment with breathing? And usually it's a lot easier when somebody's telling you inhale and exhale, right?
Mhm.
When we're guided to do that, the body automatically starts to quiet, right? The body starts to calm down. Even if you're moving, when you concentrate on your breathing with the movement, the body will start to calm down. Once the body calms down, the mind stops racing because the body doesn't care what the mind is saying right now.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you notice that when your body is quiet, it doesn't care what the mind is doing. The mind no longer has control over the body. Even if you're doing a yoga class, whether you're doing a restorative class, personally, I like power classes for my own practice, a little Ashtanga.
Mhm.
And when you go and when you do like the same sequence, like 3 or 4 times, you get on a loop and then you go on this like moving meditation. And then your body is on automatic. And then your mind just lets go and you just kind of soar off. And you don't have to think about anything. You just let it happen. You just let the body do its thing. It's a very organic process. It really is.
Yeah, you know what? I
Yeah.
have experienced that with hot yoga.
Yeah.
Um, when I found it, I was actually in China, believe it or not, and they didn't speak
Ah,
English
beautiful.
in this hotel I was staying at for when I was traveling in high tech in my role doing Lean Six Sigma, and I was at this really really super nice hotel in Shenzhen, China, and they said they had hot yoga, and I thought, oh, I've always wanted to try that. I wonder, like,
I
there's
love
not
hot
going to be
yoga.
anybody, like, I'm going to stand out, I might as well go. So I went into this room, and they had like the little it's kind of funny now, to heat up a room, like when we're sick here, you put the heat in and it pulls out the hot water. It wasn't like a
Mhm.
hot yoga room. It was, they were heating up the room. And so,
Okay.
and it was a little critter that they
Yeah.
had, like a 5-year-old thing that you would have in somebody's room. And
Oh, that's so cute.
nobody spoke English, but I was, she came over and helped me just do some of the poses, right? Now, probably, I don't know how correct any of this was, but what it did do is it ignited my how I felt doing it, because we didn't even speak the same language. They spoke not a whit of English. I don't speak any dialects of Chinese. And and yet it was this beautiful experience that I got to experience that week, right? And I came home and I looked it up and started to go. And the first studio I tried, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. But then the studio that I did fall in love with, um, out in Stockton, California, it was just so magical, you know,
Right?
you
You
just
hit those
disappeared
places
into it. Yeah. Mhm.
and right. And what happens, because there's an energy that happens too, right? We are energetic beings, but when you start moving that, well, the Chinese would call it chi, right?
Mhm.
Or that energy starts to kind of grow. Like just same thing, like if you rub your hands together, right? Then you feel that sensation
Mhm.
between your,
Oh, yeah.
that's the same energy that's
Mhm.
all around your body. And that starts to grow and get bigger. And sometimes you can feel the energy field as you move your arms around. And it's just like a great thing when you're in that energy is taking over and guiding you. It's like you are being so much in the moment, and you're just being guided by your own inner source, that nothing else. And the time stands still, right? Like there's no sense of
Mhm.
any time, there's no future, right? You're not thinking about like the honey-do list or where you're going afterwards, and you don't care what happened before that, because that's not even having any effect on you. So that means that has no power over you in your life, right? And it's just
Yeah. Like I have to
these,
write down when we start talking, because I've noticed that I get so caught up in conversations with,
yeah.
everybody. I'm so present, and I'm so fascinated by how everybody mixes up what they're doing. So like now you work, like, so are you still practicing, or I guess teaching? I don't know what the right
Mm-hmm.
word would be.
Yeah, I'm
You're
still
still
teaching
teaching?
yoga. I'm teaching him. Yeah, I'm teaching in person. I actually, it's funny thing is that I teach at gyms. And why I do that is because it's easy to teach at a yoga studio because they're there, they're ready for it. But it's really hard to get somebody that goes to a gym that's, used to lifting the weights and the heavy cardio to drop into a yoga class and to really appreciate what happens from that, and then taking them into shavasana at the end of the practice. I always thought of yoga as the body in motion is prayer in motion. It's like moving prayer. And then the shavasana at the end is, the receiving the answer to the prayer. The meditation is the receiving the answer to your prayer. So I've always thought of yoga as like, a moving prayer in motion.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
That's how I approach my yoga. And that's just something that was downloaded to me when I was doing my yoga practice one day. And I'm like, okay, prayer in motion. All right. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because that releases like your spiritual energy, right? And it gives you permission, like, to let that spirit come forth and allow that light to shine and to break down the barriers and everything we put around ourselves as protectors, right? Because we hide behind our names and our titles and our jobs and this and that, and we put ourselves in like a little box. Yoga takes the box away. Yoga says, no box. Come out. Put the light out there and stand. The mountain pose is literally you standing there, shoulders down, feet planted down, heart rising, chest lifting, and you owning exactly who you are.
I can feel that right now. Like it's almost like I just saw myself doing that.
Yeah.
Like, like
just when you stand there, right? And you let those shoulders draw down and you let your ribs come off the hips and you take the chest up and take the chin up and you close your eyes and you take that deep breath and you press it out and you press those feet down into the earth. You are grounded in exactly who you are in that moment. That's like the ownership pose. That's what I like to think of it as.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I
just feel so like our energy, and as we're talking, I almost feel like I've been lullabied. I'm so I almost feel like I'm
in the Zen mode now.
In a total Zen mode as we started to talk. It was like that energy that you just allude that is coming coming through, right? Like I just feel like I want to go, like
you just want to go like,
yeah. It's like when you wake up after a practice, that's what it feels like sometimes, because all you thought about was, wow, I was able to lift my leg up a little more. And that feeling that you have, because
and you know what the hardest thing to do is just to say yes and show up on the mat. That's the hardest thing. The poses have nothing to do with it. You said yes to yourself. You showed up on that mat and you said, I am gifting this to myself. I am allowing my self-care. I'm allowing myself to shine. And I am taking care of everything in me for this 30, 45 hour and a half minutes or whatever it is. So yeah, like that's it right there. You say yes. And then the practice, once you say yes, the practice just is like the cherry on top,
Oh, I love that. There, it reminded me of, there was a book I read, and it was Glenda Doyle's book. Not Untamed. It's not Untamed, which, I quote all the time.
Everybody loves that. Everyone loves Glennon Doyle, though. I mean,
I just love her.
Yeah.
And that really first big book that she came out with, and I have to think about it, what the name of it is.
Yeah, that's escaping my mind. Yeah.
And she talks about, she knew she needed to go someplace, right? Like she was already not drinking, and she went and she knew she had to go to the mat, and just her whole goal was just to stay on the mat and not run away.
Yeah.
Start to face herself just to get through the mat.
Yeah.
She never talks about what poses she's doing. And
Yeah.
I think that's why so many of us have found our way and how it opens the door. So to really listening to ourselves. I know that right before we got on too, we both were chatting about like
Yeah.
we each brought some crystals, and
Yes, we have our
how you're wearing,
Yeah.
right? I have my crystals here that I
Yeah,
put
yeah,
called,
yeah.
and but
Yeah.
I find is that, you know, like crystals now are pretty accessible to
Yeah, yeah.
anybody, right? Like
Right.
you can go no matter where you live, I think,
Yeah,
in
there's
comparison. And so one of the things that I haven't really talked about with anybody either is
the
how
pendulum.
our pendulum. And so how did this
Which one
find
is
its
it?
way into your life? Like,
You know,
I'm
I
always so
was I
curious
was
about how
I was in a store. I will tell you the honest truth. I have never met a pendulum I couldn't activate. Now I have friends who they pick up a pendulum and like, no, it doesn't do anything. Every
yeah.
pendulum I have ever touched. And
Mm.
I was just, in a new age store and I was looking at crystals and I picked up a pendulum and like you can see it right away, it starts going, right? It just starts going.
Mm-hmm. Starts talking
And
back.
well, yeah, and it's saying yes. It's agreeing. And I just thought that how fabulous that like these little stones, these crystals on these, chains, and they did. I use these all the time for like yes and no questions.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple, yes and no. If I'm, because it's not going to say, well, no, turn left at the light and go, it's not gonna
yeah.
a quick yes or no stuff. And, I have 3 or 4 of them here, and they'll, just in case I double check, and they're very spot on. I've never had them. This is the soda light one. I have never had them not be right.
Now, what if somebody has never used a pendulum, or a pendulum,
Pendulum.
if I can
Okay. Well, I would
pronounce it
first,
correctly?
and I also use this for like balancing chakras. If I lay somebody down, and we want to see what chakras are out of balance,
Mm-hmm.
it'll tell me what chakras. It'll go clockwise for balance and counterclockwise for unbalance. But I would say just like, and if you're going to the crystal shop, right, pick it up, and hold it in your hand. See if you feel like an energy to it. Although I can activate all pendulum, everyone I've ever touched, doesn't mean that that's the right pendulum for me. Because I would own like 10,000 pendulums. So like, and then I will hold it up and say, okay, like if you're the right pendulum for me, can you please show me yes, or start to move, and it'll start, and that's my yes. Clockwise is my yes. You're seeing it the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, like, if you're the right pendulum for me, if so, can you please start moving? And it'll activate. Now, sometimes they get a little jumpy and they'll just start jumping up and down, but whatever feels good. And if something is not resonating, I would say buy one anyway and just play around with it, because you could be nervous, there could be some fear factor. So I would say get one, whatever your favorite stone is, your favorite color even. You don't have to overthink it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, because I think there's a lot of people who listen who are new to,
Yeah.
or they're curious. Maybe they've done a little bit, but maybe, there's so much to learn. There's so many areas to go dive in, and where this might be kind of, a basic thing for you. I only have one.
I've got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 of them here. I have one more somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I might be over there. My cousin passed away, and well, my cousin's wife passed away, but she's just as much my cousin. And then he gave me her pendulum. It was a clear quartz pendulum.
Oh.
So he gave me her pendulum because he didn't know how to use it. I was like, that's not for me. You want her pendulum? Yes, give it to me. That's fine.
So as you've now progressed, on this journey
Mhm.
for a few years now, um, how are you incorporating, or what other tools are you using that are helping, and how are you helping others? Because I know
Well,
that
right.
you work with people, and
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. Right now I have a meditation course. That's the new session is actually starting next Thursday. And it is a 5-week meditation course on meeting your spirit guides. And yeah, so it is though for people who have a meditation practice or who are used to meditating, are familiar with meditation. It's not really designed for new people. And the first one is like 20-25 minutes, and then each one builds on the previous one, so it's a progressive thing. And then the last meditation is about 45 minutes, and you're giving steps in those meditations, just like the class that we just finished, right? There are
Mhm.
steps, and you get very comfortable and going right into it. And without giving too much away, you meet spirit guides, you also meet angels, you develop your intuition, and you learn a little bit about who your soul is, or what your soul is about in this life. So yeah,
Oh,
meditation is a really huge thing. I think people discount it. I think people don't realize like how powerful of a tool it is. But some of the world's most successful people meditate. I mean, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, we know, like, she's a huge lover of meditation.
mhm.
Will Smith meditates. So there's a lot of celebrities and a lot of very successful. Kathy Heller, right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
she promotes
Mhm.
meditation, right? And that's really the key to tuning in, because we can't get the messages that we need if our mind is all with the chatter of the world, right? Because the world is noisy, it's buzzy, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. But in meditation, everything quiets down, and then we can kind of get the answers, and we go, oh, okay, kind of like yoga, right?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see the simile,
yeah,
this, how similar it is. I've noticed that at the beginning of this year, 2021, is that I started a practice where I was consistent every day because I was using it on an app.
yeah.
So, and then I would start my day, and then I switched what I was listening to every day. Like this year, I was listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza
Yes, yes.
because
I have
our
his book on
mentor.
my coffee table,
Yeah,
actually. I
right.
have
Me
his book
too.
on my coffee table. Yeah.
And so I was listening to more of his and meditations, and I this last week or so, I would say that I kind of fell off. I call it I fall off the wagon, with the practice. And I can look back and I can see, how was this last, actually, it's been 2 weeks, been two
Ah.
weeks. And, I've been more emotional these last 2 weeks. There really is something about that connection of
It gives you a
setting
little
the
more.
intention, staying in my body, because I have a tendency to fly off and
I know.
outside of my body.
Well, I say, like, I like to live on the other side of the veil. However, I need to do my earthly duties. But in meditation, it's not going to keep us from having problems. I mean, right? Nothing keeps you from having problems. What it does is it gives you the tools to recognize, okay, this is a growth experience. This is a learning experience. So what is the lesson for me? And let me step back and let it happen, instead of, like, fighting against the world. Okay, this is something for me. Like, we had a discussion before we started recording, and I told you, like, last couple of days I've just been crying, just bawling my eyes out. And okay, stuff just needs to come out. Answers need to come up, but stuff needs to come out. So meditation is the same way, right? It
Mhm.
just kind of gives you the tools to deal with whatever life lessons or whatever life issues are happening, whether it's you, for you, or just the world in general, or maybe people around you were just having a tough time, and you don't want to take on that energy, right? So you just want to kind of create a shield for that. So you can be empathic, right? Without taking on their problems or their energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, my kitty cat just jumped up.
Aw, because they like energy.
Yeah, she's somewhere. She's jealous,
There she
probably.
is.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's so cute. My
Yeah.
dogs have been in and out. In fact, they're walking around me as we talk. And
I know. We're like, wait a minute, what about
right,
this?
like I know something's going on.
Yeah. So yeah.
I love that. So um it's almost like an experiment of how powerful, like when I think about what you're sharing about just people connecting in to understanding their own intuition and how we learn the process of learning to trust it.
Yeah. And that's hard, right? Because it's not this big sign that says, okay, Deb, you're going this way, and this is the, when you turn left, and this is the sign you're going to see. It's like you kind of like, what was that? Like, and I had something the other day. This is really, really ridiculous, right? But something told me, like, go this way to go home. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm just going to go the regular way. It was like a little detour way. It didn't matter, right? I'm just going to go the right. But I was like in such a bad mood when I got home. I'm going, oh, shoot. Like, I don't know. There was something energetically that I drove through that just cut my mood down. And I know, okay, wait, okay, maybe I should have gone the other way. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I don't always listen, right? But it's there. And it's also there for people who've, experienced like a lot of emotional trauma growing up or as adults, or as, and sometimes they second guess themselves and they think that they're wrong, or, like they haven't found a purpose, or, and that intuition is really good for grounding them to the source of their understanding, whether you call it God or a source, universe, or spirit, or whatever it is you call it. That really kind of connects you to that universal energy that we are all part of. We're all from that one same source. And meditation kind of, opens up that intuition for you to go, oh, wait a minute, no, I am part of this, and I am needed, and I am valued, and I have something to say, and I have something to teach, and I have something to show, and I am just as loved as as a superstar. I'm just as loved by the universe and by God, by source, as somebody who's a superstar. There's no difference in that. So yeah.
I love that you brought that back, because I think as people start to explore, right? You start to explore, and maybe you start listening to your intuition, and maybe you will sense things, or you'll see things, or maybe you'll see colors, and mine looks different, right? Like I have a huge knowing. I actually get little pictures. Do you remember those TVs? Maybe they're in the 90s. They'd have the big picture, and then they'd have the little picture.
The picture in picture.
The picture in picture TVs that were here for, I think it was the 90s. And my, showing my seasons of life, right? And I see sometimes that's what I see, as clear as day. Like if you're talking about your purpose, or connecting with and things, I can see you in that screen. So I'm like, yeah, like that's my confirmation that whatever you're explaining, that's what I'm seeing. And yeah, you should go for it, right? Like that's part of your gift. I don't know what's in between here and there, but and I think sometimes we have a tendency to compare ourselves with, even as we're developing it. Again, we allow some of the traumas to come through us and cloud it. And so, and I think it goes back to when you were saying, when you were young, really young, a common thing that's not common is that as children, you felt that connection. And then it's not okay to be that way. So we suppress it again. And then learning how to trust it. And so what I find so beautiful is that, and we had mentioned it before we were
Mhm.
taping, was that yeah, we're all these same beautiful souls, but everybody is so beautifully unique, and their journeys of how they got here, and how they're reaching out, and how they're helping other people rise up, work through. We're in your Costco's, we're in your,
Yeah, exactly. We're
we.
all, and I love the broken stories, right? I love the stories of like where the breaks happen, and I don't mean the breaks that I just mean like where you feel like life is falling apart, or like the whole world underneath of you is kind of slipping away, because that's your pivot, right? That's the universe saying you are not on track. This is not where you're supposed to go. You're not listening. So we're gonna just take this all away. And now find us. Listen in.
Mhm,
Close your eyes. Right? Because we're all born with that knowing. We're all born, we all know. We just have to tap into that knowing, right? It's said
mhm.
that you were born with everything you need to know. You have to unwrap those gifts. You have to find them.
Oh, I love that. You
Yeah.
have to unwrap those gifts.
Yeah, you have to unwrap those gifts. Yeah. And they're there, but we can't find them if we're always on the TV, if we are avoiding ourselves, if we are avoiding that solitude time, we're not going to find it. If we're allowing all these distractions, and if we're always busying ourselves, and I'm too busy going shopping, or I'm too busy, taking care of others, we're not going to find it.
Mm,
We're not going to find it. And then, like, you not only keep yourself from living the destiny of your soul, but then you keep those around you like from knowing your greatness. Like you're not sharing your greatness just with your loved ones in your family, let alone the whole world. But let's keep it small. Let's keep it just like your besties, or your family. And you don't have to go like all out. I mean, a lot of my family, they think I'm nuts, like, oh, she's crazy. Well, okay, you don't want to tap in, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. But this is, so you share a little bit here and there. But they also know where to go. They also know if they have a question about something, can you pull a card? Can you pull a pendulum?
mhm.
Can you do this for me? So they also know where to go.
And so I've had that experience too
Yeah,
with
right.
people in my group who I'm like, oh, I had no idea that you were interested in it, or
Yeah.
and then they're now interested, as maybe it's as my own steadiness has come through, owning my own worth has allowed, like Miriam Beckman, Marianne Williamson talks about,
Yes,
when
I
you
love
let your
Mary.
line, when you let your own light show, it allows others, right? When we are hiding,
You
I'm
give other people
paraphrasing.
permission, right? To just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, like put the guards down, like get rid of the fence, get rid of the wall. Like you're not like you're keeping yourself in, you're not keeping anybody out. You're not protecting yourself, you're kind of hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But unwrapping those gifts, we all have like a whole bunch of gifts. And they're not all like not everybody's gonna be Beyonce or Oprah Winfrey or Bill Gates. But we all have something just as equal to present to the world.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, because it's not so grand and so great on the human side, we think it's not worthy of sharing.
Yeah, and isn't that so different? Because I would think that everybody who's listening, as we could probably easily come up with, there's somebody you've met. They weren't famous. It could have been a teacher. It could have been a friend, that a coworker along the way that you met, and they just had such a positive impact in believing in you,
Yeah,
genuine caringness. And maybe you don't know who that person is, but you've experienced it. It was, brief, or maybe it was a couple of years, and they weren't famous.
exactly. And it's not, sometimes the most profound thing we can do is to touch one person, because maybe that person is just so broken that they just needed to see you and hear those words for the day, and maybe that saved them from something or gave them some self-value or self-worth.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's just
Oh,
like kindness, right?
mm,
It's just like,
yeah.
just allow them to feel like they are worthy of just being recognized. And okay. And then you open up that door, and maybe then from there they go on to some healing. And maybe they don't, but maybe they do. And for that second, you have changed, maybe not the universe, but you have changed their world. And in that, their energy shifts, and it starts to shift the energy around them. And then the universe kind of feels it. And I think like God goes, yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Because that's my child too. Just as much as, the superstars or whatever.
Mhm.
That's my child as well. And my child just needed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally love that. The kindness really does matter, and you never know what somebody's going through. Um, you know, spending a lot of time in healthcare is you're walking by somebody and you really have no idea what is going through their life right now, whether it's them or their loved one. And, last year, for all of the sadness that happened, it did slow down the busy.
It did. I was actually obviously I'm not happy about COVID, but I did like the fact that we had to slow down and we had to take a look at we had the opportunity. It was given a gift, right? To
Hmm.
take a look at yourselves and take a look at your life and what's working, what's not working. And okay. And you had reflective time and meditative
Hmm.
time, or you could have learned a new task or a new talent or studied something. But it was like, and also families also came together
Hmm.
a little more than instead of going off, 1,000 different directions for everything else. Like every people came together as well. So there was a hard thing, and we're still in it. But and we're coming out of it, right? But like it was, I looked at it as like a gift. Okay, what can I take instead of getting mad and upset and frustrated? I still have those feelings, but I also know that like let me find the lining in this. Like let me find something positive.
Hmm.
Because this, getting angry is just going to destroy me. So let me see like what universal forces are at work here.
Oh, I love that, because that's exactly how I
Yeah.
felt. I went inward, and now that it's time for here where I live and is opening up, and it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, do I want that level of busy? And
Yeah.
people, I think, have some choice, new choices now to make. Or how are you in community? How are you, I think it was wonderful online that people were able to then connect online as well. But as we reach back out into the outside world in our own neighborhoods,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, h- how do we keep that connection to ourselves? So it's, this is
Well,
just.
we know we've gotten the gift, right, of being part of a really huge community, of meeting, like 800 people in this program, that we know like that online community is still there for us. And if it were not for what was happening, would we have all signed up for it? We may have been busy outside doing other things.
Hmm. And the connection was so profound.
It
Uh,
was, it was literally, it was like names on a scroll. And on this day, these are the names that are showing up, and these are the names that are connecting. Literally, they're all written down. If you can go to the other side, that's how kind of that stuff happens. These are all those soul contracts. That's in a whole nother situation. We all have like these soul contracts and stuff, and that comes into play. And whether we physically spoke or we're part of the same community and just kind of see each other's names, and
mhm.
oh yeah, yeah, and just seeing that name just kind of perpetuates you to do more and do
Yeah.
better, and love.
Hmm. It really, I hadn't quite seen community so powerful as I have. In fact, it's inspired me to want to create my own community.
Yeah.
Why I opened up a membership, because I've I've seen firsthand what that feels like to, be able to have those type of relationships with people. It's really super powerful. So.
It is, and it's a safe space, right?
Mhm.
It's a safe space for people to share their likenesses. And it's also a safe space for them if they have any fears to share, like, or uncertainties, or, I'm feeling a little off about this. And does anybody experience this? It's really like a really great safe space for people to go. Yeah. And I love that. I love this community that you've built up. I just, it's just so phenomenal.
I have honestly, I think through with all the people that I've had these, I feel so intimate, right? Of my conversations of, and varying various levels of intimacy, depending on where our connection is, or where they are, or where I'm at. And all of them are just so uniquely beautiful. I feel like having every single person on is just such a gift. And I know that every single conversation ours today will impact somebody. And if I can reach one person,
right?
who
That
feels
one, right? And you just kind of like, and in that moment, like, your souls are one. When you feel that, it's like, and if you can feel that oneness in those souls, we're all one soul, just a different representation, a different body, same destination, different ways to get there. And it's just so, like, when you get that, when you understand that, when you search and seek that and allow that to present itself to you, oh my gosh, I mean, like, it's just magic. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just so magical.
Yeah, that they know that there's community, there's people here, there's, they want to be part of, maybe they're not part of your meditation from when this airs, right? Or maybe they're new, but then they realize, like, oh, there was something that really drew me to Debbie, and I'm gonna go now learn more about what she's talking about when she's explaining yoga or meditation, or even maybe they're in the store, a crystal, right?
They pull up their pendulum, which was
pendulum.
And you pull, okay, well, wait a minute. She said, wait a minute, what? Does it feel right? Ask it to move a little bit. And there she goes. She's going. I'll lower it down a little bit. You can see it on my white shirt.
Yeah, wow, look at yours go.
It's they just like, there's a store in the couple towns down, and the shop owner, her name is Elaine, and she'll go, oh, we got new pendulums coming in. Do you want to start them up for me? Yeah, I'll start them up. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I'll crank them up. But it's one of those things. I'm a little more attuned to pendulums, and I think I probably need that in my human form, because I like to, I live, like in the higher chakras for the most part. And so this is like my grounding tool. Like, it keeps me a little more earthbound. So maybe that's the necessity. That's the balance for me. Like, the crystals keep me a little more grounded, because I like to live in the other higher.
I love that. Well, Debbie, I'm going to be wrapping this up. And
oh my gosh,
we've been talking, and I lose track of time, and
we could do this all night long.
Right?
I need to come out to, like, Nevada.
Right. Well, we're opening up here in Nevada. How can people reach you?
Well, I am on Instagram at the Sanctuary for Healing. And then I have an email. It's DE, and then my last name, Bodine, BODINE @gmail.com.
I love that. So I will include that with your bio in the show notes for everybody to join. And want to thank everybody for being part of our beautiful connections. And maybe there's another Debbie who wants to join us. And
come on in.
Come on in.
Have like a Debbie day and look at all the Debbies, and we'll have like a little circle of Debbies.
And we know from the generation that we're from that there's a lot of Debbies, because
that's for sure.
There was a famous Debbie back